Coming up on Tech News today, Apple stocks take a tumble. We got a few ideas why. IE9, Firefox, and the White House all agree on privacy. Etsy, they're starting to learn anyway. And we find a Zune Lover. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Wednesday, March 16th, 2011. Tech News Today is brought to you by Go to Assist Express. If you're in tech support, solve problems fast with the leader in remote support software. Go to Assist Express for a free 30-day trial. Visit gotoassist.com/TNT. And by Slingbox, which can turn your iPad into a television with the new iPad app from Slingbox. You can watch your home TV on your iPad anywhere you go. Check it out at slingbox.com. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Jason Howell.
Joining us today, Mr. Scott Johnson from the Frog Pants Network.
Hey, good to see everybody again. How's it going?
It's good. It's been a while. We missed forecast this week.
Yeah, we
I
did.
was
You
on
guys
the
were
road.
busy doing the South by, and I, had to patiently wait for you to all return home. But you're all back safe and sound. Looks like no better for the worse, or however that phrase goes. It's good to see everyone. I'm excited to be here again.
Twitter is over capacity. Breaking news.
Bad request errors left and right.
Yeah, they're
How will we know?
experiencing elevated errors at this time, says their status. All right.
Okay.
So there's our top story. Thanks,
Elevated
everybody.
whale rate.
With Twitter down, we don't know what's going on in the world. No, Netflix is actually going on in the world. They are, according to Deadline.com, close to a deal that would have them spending around $100 million to acquire a new drama series, not one that's already produced, but one that is yet to be produced, called House of Cards, starring Kevin Spacey. And it's based on a novel. It's been done as a miniseries before. Kevin Fincher would be behind it. So this is a big deal. This is the kind of thing you'd see on HBO or Showtime, and it looks like Netflix may get it.
Go ahead. I was going to compare it to what they do now with Stars. Like they have that, they get like first run for what's that show, Spartacus, and they also get that Party Down show that Stars makes. This is different than that, though, right? This isn't a deal with another network. In essence, they become the network for the show.
This isn't, it ran on Stars and we get to rent it first on Netflix online. No. This is, you will see this series, and they would be for 2 years, according to the Deadline report. You would see this series first on Netflix and only on Netflix. You'd have to subscribe to Netflix to watch it.
Which is, not only is that cool if you're already a Netflix user, so you all of a sudden have original content to choose from, but the way that it goes now with, one of your favorite shows, often you have to wait till the season is well over. If you want to watch Dexter via Netflix, the season's got to be out for a while. The DVDs have to be out. You're certainly not going to be at the forefront of any weekly Sunday show. So this would be awesome. You don't have to wait. There is no waiting period.
Yeah, this would
that was
be
eloquently.
This would be Netflix put into
Explained.
direct competition with HBO and Showtime and Stars. Even this is the kind of thing that actually turns them from being a cable company in analog on the internet into being a network on the internet. So it muddies the waters even more.
Well, you would look at this and say, well, why are they just trying one thing? Why are they just dipping their toe in the water this lightly? And $100 million isn't lightly. I don't want to make light of that much money. But if this works for them, if it's a success, and I don't know what will constitute that. Like what, you've already got a kind of a base of subscribers. Is this to drive new subscribers to get Netflix that aren't already there? Or is this just to build, I don't know, more interest and loyalty and keep the ones they have? And if that's a success, do they then invest in other shows? Do we suddenly see an original comedy series? Do we see other movies? I think this is all really good for them, and they certainly have the money to test this. And if the test doesn't work, it doesn't really matter too much. Their dominance is pretty clear, and they'll be fine. But I'm anxious to see how it turns out.
Netflix also has to distinguish itself from Amazon, for example. Amazon is now begun to offer an instant video service that's obviously going to be a competitor to Netflix, and Amazon Prime users already get this as part of a $80 per year fee, which is less money than the equivalent Netflix annual fee. So Netflix, all of a sudden, if it's like, yeah, Amazon Prime is, or the Amazon instant streaming service is behind. They don't have as much of an offering as Netflix does right now as far as titles go, but they'll get there. But if Netflix can say, well, we've got this, you can stream us on a variety of your cable alternative boxes, and we have original content you can't get anywhere else, and you like that show, if House of Cards turns into the next Mad Men or something, this is a great get for Netflix.
And it also is another chip in their dealings with people like Starz to say, hey, we've got House of Cards. If it's wildly popular, we'll license it to you to run the reruns.
Right.
If you license us your stuff, you can make your deals that way.
It's a good bargaining chip.
Google Docs has added comments to their Word situation. I don't want to call it Word because then you'll think Microsoft Word, but it's a word processor. Google Docs word processor now allows you to make comments within the document so that you can easily collaborate and make comments without having to send emails, without having to use the kind of chat thing that was on the right. It will email the comments to people. So the idea is to be able to look at a document somebody's wrote and mark it up and make those kind of comments and have them easily accessed by everyone collaborating on the document.
What's nice too is that, let's say, we write up some sort of a strategy document for Tech News Today. And I've got a comment that says, Tom, I really like your idea here, but it raises a red flag for me. Then you could reply to my comment. Let's say that you have squashed my fears. There's an answer that I asked and you had it. We can then basically put this comment thread to rest. So
yeah, there's a resolve button.
Exactly.
So literally you can say, take all these comments out. We figured it out. Yeah.
And when a lot of people, we don't actually do that sort of thing on Tech News Today on a regular basis, but for a company where a lot of people need to at least give input or be editing one major document, that's really helpful because things will come up and then you don't want to be on some sort of an email thread halfway into the project where you don't really know what people have talked about before.
Or if you're using Microsoft Word, you've got 4 different versions going around with comments that you have to then merge all together and implement the comments. This allows you to have the commentary all in one place. It looks pretty cool. We tried it out. You weren't that impressed, I know.
Well, so like I said, we don't really use anything like this on a daily basis, so I'm already not really going to use it tomorrow going forward for anything that I can think of. I also don't like email notifications. I have like 5 email addresses that I use regularly. I turn off email notifications on every social network that I ever subscribe to, and email is just not the best way to keep constantly looping me into something. But that's just a personal preference.
And it's a setting. You can say don't.
Totally.
Don't send me the emails.
It's not mandatory to get the emails. I think it just depends on what your project is, and it definitely looks better than it did before.
What I would like this to do, when we do forecast, Tom, there are times during the show where you and I will just exchange a couple of thoughts or ideas, and we'll do it just in an empty field in the spreadsheet. We're using the spreadsheets. If they would integrate this into the spreadsheets, I could see that process being, and actually I can see how it would be difficult for them to do it, and probably why we haven't seen it yet, because the layout's kind of variable. You can zoom in and out. There's tables. It's very different. But if they figure out a way to do that, I could see that being more of an advantage for you and I during a case like that, where we're just trying to sort of say, I'll throw this to you next, or hey, I've got to read this ad next, or hey, my connection's being weird, do you take this next thing or whatever. More of a real time at the time that you're recording kind of thing would be pretty cool.
Well, Scott, what do you think is missing from the little chat window that Google Docs will currently let you talk to each other in as long as you're both logged into the same spreadsheet now?
My biggest problem with that is it's not bad. I mean, it doesn't really give you a great notification. It turns orange, so you kind of know something's going on up there, but if you're not really paying attention, you don't really go there.
Yeah, you kind of have to watch it.
Yeah, my biggest problem, though, is it's all out of context. I don't know when this thing was said, what it was said about, at what point in the show was it said. So if Tom said something, 5 minutes ago, I'm just finding out about it, and I don't know what he means out of that context. So that kind of contextual commenting would be pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. The biggest thing with the chat in Google Docs right now is it's almost hidden. Like you say, it blinks orange, but if you miss that, people could be... I don't rely on it to get somebody's attention, right?
Right.
I rely on it once I know, okay, Sarah's paying attention to that chat room. I could talk to her there.
Right.
I know that, but I wouldn't put something in there that was important expecting them to see it.
That's true. Yeah, that makes sense. It's worth mentioning too that you don't have to be a Gmail user to be looped in on a document.
That's true. You can just be part of the discussion.
You can be
That's
part of
one
the
the nice things
discussion
about
via
the
email,
yeah.
but not from actually within Google Docs itself. So it's meant for folks who are collaborating on documents, not just Google Docs users.
Apple is having a little stock scare today. As we do the show right now, it looks like, let me pull this up. Apple stock down 4.46%, down $15 after today's trading because of an analyst named Alex Guana at JMP Securities lowering Apple's rating from market outperform to market perform, citing slower sales growth at Foxconn. Now, Foxconn makes a lot of the stuff that Apple sells. Analyst Yair Rainier with Oppenheimer and Company, though, issued a note saying, wait a minute, Apple's contribution to Foxconn is limited. The correlation between Apple and Foxconn's revenue, therefore, appears to be a product of coincidence more than causality.
Yeah, it turns out that Apple's contribution to Foxconn makes about almost $100 billion almost $100 billion in sales in 2010. But Apple accounted for just about 21% of that total. So, I mean, we're not even talking about half here. If something's going on with Foxconn and Apple only accounts for about 20%, just over 20% of their total sale and revenue, how much, do the stories really correlate?
Yeah, that's interesting because if Apple's only, they're really only talking about 21% of their output, that must be a significant percentage, I have to think, because so is everything else broken up into tiny percentages and 20% is the largest grouping? That would almost have to be, because if it isn't, this seems really unfair to say, all right, well, your third-party supply chain is going to determine where your stock is. I suppose if they have huge shortages and other problems, a factory explodes or something crazy weird happens,
right.
I guess that has some impact on production and supply chain, but it seems a little harsh to strap Apple with this, considering the fact that they're just coming off what would, people would argue, an extremely successful iPad 2 launch, selling 500,000 in the first day versus 400 the year before, and doing well overall. I'm no Apple apologist generally, but this seems like an unfair thing to straddle them with.
That said, I mean, the fact that the iPad 2 is so popular and did sell out so many places, if they're having an issue over at Foxconn getting units out in general, and now there's going to be a shortage in the U.S. for the next 6 months for the iPad 2, then yes, that's going to negatively affect Apple's bottom line as well.
That's not what he said. That's what's interesting. He just said, well, Foxconn sales are slowing, and last year Foxconn sales went up and Apple sales went up. Therefore, if Foxconn sales are slowing, Apple sales must go down. Mm-hmm. It's like, because what you just said made sense. You should be an analyst.
Okay.
He said,
poof, I'm an analyst.
Yeah, pretty much. I think that's how it happens, actually. All right, let's take a quick break and thank Go to Assist Express. If you're in tech support, you need to try Go to Assist Express. Your clients rely on you for fast and reliable support, and that's what Go to Assist Express helps you deliver. They were recently named the worldwide market leader in remote support by Frost & Sullivan, the industry analyst group, which focuses on this particular sector. It's easy to use. It's affordable. It's secure end-to-end. You're looking at their screen. You're walking them through it. You're fixing the things for them. You can send them instant email invitations, works on PCs and Macs. You diagnose the problem as you access their desktop remotely. You ask them the questions you need to ask them, find out what software is running, and then you fix the problem. You access the files on their computer, or you can even transfer files from your computer if you need to. You got one of those DLLs that needs to be fixed, you can just drag it on over there. You'll solve more tech support questions more quickly and help clients even when they're far away from their computer. Go to Assist, brought to you by Citrix. And all data exchanged during your sessions is completely secure with end-to-end 128-bit encryption. Can't stress that enough. So when you're talking remote, you're like, well, wait a minute. I want to make sure this is secure. They are absolutely secure. Free customer service available 24/7. Try them out today for 30 days, absolutely free. Visit gotoassist.com/TNT. On to privacy. We got a lot of privacy stories today. Start with a privacy violation. Etsy. You ever buy anything on Etsy, Sarah?
I've never actually gone ahead and bought anything that was, from a vendor that was actually shipped to me, but I've lurked along Etsy quite a bit.
It's a crafty thing,
yeah,
right?
if you're a good knitter, for example, this
which
is
I'm not.
Neither am I. But there are a lot of knitters on Etsy. A lot of people who make stuff, And you've got
they
all
have
these
a fair
scarves.
amount of that kind of stuff. They also have a lot of paintings. They have a lot of artwork, a lot of pottery, that kind of stuff. My wife loves Etsy, but I'm not really a.
So
I don't really
It's
hang
the sort
with
of thing where you've got stuff that you think that you can sell to folks,
it's
make
very,
some money.
It's very crafty. There's a
provides a
craft
store of sorts.
community. People
Yes.
who like that sort of DIY crafty stuff. They like to talk to each other. So Etsy started something called the People Search tool last week. If you entered a full name into the search tool, it would bring up your profile, and which was now public. So lots of people could find you, which maybe makes sense for sellers, but it also had buyers in there as well. Not lenders, just buyers. And it could allow you to see past purchases because of the way the feedback system worked, and this is where it got into trouble. So I could look up Scott Johnson, and then on his profile it would have all the feedback that was ever given on Scott, and each piece of feedback was associated with something he bought.
Right.
So I could say, gee, Scott, why did you buy a hot pink knitted halter top?
Well,
and
why
Scott's
not?
like, you know what? Thanks for ruining my wife's anniversary present.
Right.
Because now you saw it. Or it could be something more nefarious. People freaked out.
Yeah, people were really upset about it. And I mean, I have to assume that Etsy, to me, when I think about Etsy as a community, it's like there's definitely an Etsy community. It's not that it can't be a social network, but this is a weird way to try to bring more people into it. If I'm doing a search and your profile or something associated with your profile comes up on the first page of my Google results, and I click in and now I'm seeing sort of your buying history on Etsy, I'm not sure how I, as a not regular user of Etsy, is going to be any more part of that community. They're just getting more page hits, really.
I think it comes down to, this stuff boils down to when you are a company that has a lot of logins and you essentially own a lot of names, everybody who is in that state wants to get in on this social pie.
Right.
And it doesn't matter who they are. And oftentimes they kind of screw up. They don't think it through. They forget that this thing has a back end to it that's going to expose people that won't want to be, and it's going to cause a big stink. And they don't think of those things. They just know we have a ton of names and we should be able to take a piece of this pie too. And they just dive in. And to me, it's not unlike what Apple did with Ping initially. It's not unlike what a lot of companies do when they have a lot of names already and they try to venture into another space. And they kind of screw up. Google's did it with Buzz a little bit. It's just kind of the thing to do, is to make that huge mistake when you realize, holy crap, we have millions of names. We should do something social with this. And then they always have to step back a little. I think they're just in the same boat.
Companies have these privacy issues all the time where they make a change. They don't do a very good job of alerting folks. Etsy said, hey, everybody who's got a profile was alerted to these changes. Many Etsy folks said, well, no, actually we weren't. And we're not lying about that. You didn't tell us. There's also having your real name associated with your profile that's now public is an opt-out situation. So you have to opt out of saying... you have to opt out of being available to be searched for on a public page. And that's, also, that's a tough one. Companies do this, yes, but I mean, just look at Facebook. All that opt-out stuff always upsets people, and you kind of feel like Etsy should have thought this through a little bit more.
Always make it opt-in. If you want to avoid problems, make it opt-in.
Make it opt-in and just do a good job of letting people know that they have options.
As of today, by the way, the reason this is in the news, as of today, buyer and seller feedback no longer link directly to purchased items. So you can still see the feedback that says, hey, you were awesome, or why didn't you ever pay me, but it won't tell you about the hot pink halter top Scott bought.
Yeah.
On to the White House, where I imagine you don't see a whole lot of white or hot pink halter tops.
Well, it depends on what room you're in, I suppose.
And who's president. Makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Lawrence E. Strickling, though, Assistant Secretary of Commerce, who is expected to call for a privacy bill of rights. Not a lot of details about what would go into this. It's based on a Commerce Department report. But essentially they're saying, let's start building one. Let's start building a privacy bill of rights. One of the things that they would ask for is something the FTC has already asked for, which is a way to opt out of being tracked online. We've talked in the past about all the different browsers having different ways of doing it, but a similar story to this today, Microsoft has added a do not track user preference very similar to what Mozilla calls the do not track HTTP header. It works as a header that is sent to the website. So now in Internet Explorer 9 that shipped earlier this week, you can use the do not track user preference.
And this is just something that you go up into your preferences and you say, yes, engage, do not track.
Right. Now,
Go
the
ahead and click that and you're done.
that we had with Firefox doing this is that there were no advertisers actually on board to follow it, and it's not a standard. Firefox, Mozilla has submitted it as a standard, but apparently now Microsoft has also submitted it as a standard to the W3C. So you got two big browsers doing it. If all we need is get some advertisers on board.
Well, it turns out, and this is what is kind of confusing to me, and maybe you guys can shed a little light on why a group of about 30 online advertising companies is kind of like breaking with the industry standard and supporting a proposal for a single do not track tool that would be a standard that everyone would use, everyone would allow. And the group is, these companies aren't familiar to me: Exponential Interactive, Burst Media, Odd Science Incorporated, and so on. So it's a small group as far as advertisers go. 30, not a big number of folks, but they're vocal and they're saying this is a good idea. Why would they want to advocate this?
Oh, you mean why would they be behind it? Because then it makes them look good. They're like,
this is just some,
we're
like,
responsible
warm and
trackers.
fuzzy.
We want to actually, track people when they want to be tracked. And we want to make it easy. We don't want to have 16 different systems out there that we have to participate because that's costly. So it's a company that's like, we want to play by the rules.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make it make it easy for people to not be tracked if they don't want to, but we want it to be cheap.
What I would like to see happen is see the industry, private citizens, and groups like that fight that out and figure it out, and that end up being the thing. Whatever that thing is, that be the thing that we use. What I don't want is this administration or any other administration trying to come up with enforceable privacy laws, specifically that are handed down as federal law. I don't want to see that happen because I just feel like that will stunt innovation in that area specifically, and we'll get better results from super smart people in open source projects that are behind things like Mozilla, people at Google, wherever it comes from. I would rather see it come from that sector than I would government.
I agree with you.
There.
I would also rather see my Nissan Leaf get all the way home before it runs out of electricity, and that was true of two other people. In fact, one person on my Nissan Leaf's discussion forum, who goes by Kalangst, posted, "Dumb **S alert. Am I the first to drain it?" And it looks like it must have been posted from his phone or something. He's like, "Yes, I am out of power." Had links to a Y-Frog picture. Went from 17 to turtle to dead in about 5 miles, 2.3 miles from the dealer, 4.2 miles from home. He goes on in the thread later to talk about how he coasted out of the intersection on no power into parking lot, couldn't plug in because he's nowhere near somewhere to plug in. There was another incident similar to this where somebody ran out of juice before they got home and there was no way to fill back up. You can't go down to the corner gas station and bring back a gallon of electricity.
You can't call AAA and tell them to just bring some electricity, just enough to get you to the nearest station.
Actually, AAA ought to have that at some point,
It's
like a
crank.
generator.
Yeah, no, it's a crank. They bring the crank and they say, "All right, go for it."
Yeah,
Wind it up.
Here's a treadmill. Start running.
Yeah.
That's interesting, though. All these green vehicles and this movement toward cleaner vehicles and stuff. Nobody's really thought about the ramifications on things like I've run out of gas in the middle of the desert. What does AAA do? What does my Chevron card that I pay for? Do they come out and give me anything?
Actually, Scott, Nissan has thought about that, and one thing they're doing is they're like, if you have a problem, call us. In these cases, they sent out engineers to the site to figure out what happened. They say it's a combination of some user error, but also some technical faults, and it looks like the battery power just drained faster than the dashboard reporting system had anticipated.
And there are, I guess, a lot of reasons for that, depending on how you drive. It's kind of like gas. You can get less mileage to the gallon if you've kind of got a lead foot and you're always braking and this and that. I guess the same would be true for an electric battery, but the fact that the in-dash system is saying you've got 10 miles left and you don't. I know Tom and we drive very differently. I get down to exactly like I have 2 miles left on empty. I know I can get like 400 miles to the gallon or 400 miles before I have to fill up my car again. You don't work that way because you only go halfway down.
I don't let the tank go more than halfway.
So you're more of a cautious person in general.
And I don't ever run out of gas.
But I also do this because I am really confident that my car is telling me the truth. I know exactly how far I have to get down before I need to refill or I will get stuck somewhere.
Do I have permission to laugh at you next time you run out of gas?
I've never run out of gas, ever. Never.
Knock.
This is for Micah, but whatever.
Whatever.
You get the idea.
Works good enough.
But you know what I mean? If your car's, you need that to be accurate. So if it's some sort of computer glitch
Right.
and it's got to get smarter,
Well,
then
and
they
they
should
said,
really
they
do
said
that
it
before
actually,
you drive
it
off
actually,
the lot.
the estimates get more accurate as you drive because it learns your driving behavior. But you probably shouldn't let this thing get down to a 10-mile range.
Or maybe you make
But
a
I mean,
10-mile
But
range.
that's not-
Instead of
visible
thinking,
to the user.
the expectation should not be this is an exact measurement. I think is what we've learned out of
And they
this.
should say that. They should not say you've
Maybe
got
they
10
do.
miles left. They should say you're in danger zone and you may not get
Well,
home.
they wouldn't give you. I mean, what they should say is this number is not an 100% accurate estimate. We think you have 10 miles, but really you should get home right now. It should be in blinking
Objects
red.
in the mirror farther than they appear.
Exactly.
Yes.
It should start playing Danger Zone over the radio when you get that low. That's what I
Also,
say.
you should people should know that the U.S. Department of
drive
Energy,
faster.
U.S. Department of Energy National Renewable Energy Laboratory list of charging stations might be handy to print out and put in your car, and they've just rolled that map into Google Maps, so you can actually look up and find the
cool.
nearest EV charging station as well.
See, I'd love to get one of these, but I just don't know how it would work. And I live in an apartment building with a common garage for about 20 cars, and there aren't any outlets, and it's got to be convenient, or else it's not going to catch on anyway.
So Sarah, if I had 2 Leafs in my driveway,
Yes.
would I call them my Leafs or would I call them my Leaves?
Well, I would assume that Nissan would want you to say Leafs because it's the plural leaf, which is the proper noun for the car, not
Got it.
like maple leaves, which are just
I think
Different.
when the car runs out of electricity and it's coasting downhill, it's a falling leaves.
or just a falling leaf.
It's just one. Yeah, well, there are 2 in this case.
Unless it's Scott's driveway, and then
Yeah.
they're falling leaves.
Scott's
left and
driveway
right.
goes uphill, though.
Oh, so they're. I don't know.
Defying gravity.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right, let's move
Good
on.
question,
Let's
Scott.
move on to something easier, like
Stumped us.
nuclear energy.
Yes.
So the situation in Japan just keeps getting worse and worse. In fact, the IAEA chief came out and said Japan's nuclear situation is very serious. He spoke today, and when somebody like that says it, that means a lot more because these guys are very moderate. So when somebody, dressed in the suit comes out and says, look, I'm the head of the IAEA, this is very serious. Stuff just got real. It got really bad out there. Reactor 4 is the real bad one right now. Reactor 4 was shut down for inspection when the earthquake happened, but the fuel had been loaded into the fuel storage pond where they usually put spent fuel instead of being still in the reactor. Because of that, they had a bigger problem with Reactor 4 when the cooling system shut down and the water in the pond started to go out. Then, Wednesday, they had a 2-hour fire in the spent fuel storage pond, and that's when radioactivity was released into the atmosphere. There has been some radioactivity from emissions of steam that was very low, but this was the first very large burst of radioactivity from Reactor 4. Reactors 1 through 3 were all running, and the control rods were inserted. So those are the ones that had explosions, but they actually haven't had as much containment problems. In fact, Reactors 1 and 2 did not breach containment. Reactor 3 may have ruptured, but again, that's not where the bulk of the problem is coming from. It's the shutdown reactors that are actually the issues. And in fact, today they tried dropping water from helicopters on Reactors 3 and 4, and that did not work because they were concerned about flying into the radioactive steam that was coming out of these from the water.
I mean, that's one of the main problems with a situation like this is that they've got to evacuate the area that's at risk to humans, and you can't clean up an area where no one's working. I mean, the radioactivity levels have gone down in the last day or so to the point where I think they allowed about 50 workers back in to help with the cleanup effort. So that's a very good thing.
Right. They're planning on spraying some water from ground positions, and as you mentioned, radiation level was at a dose of 400 millisieverts per hour between Reactors 3 and 4. The annual dose limit for workers is 50 millisieverts per year. So it was very high. The emergency level permitted is 100 millisieverts per year, but it has gone down now to a dose of 0.6 millisieverts per hour, and that's how they were able to allow these 50 folks to come back and start working on the problem again. But this is a very serious problem. They've expanded the evacuation to within 30 kilometers of the nuclear reactors because of this. But again, as we talked about yesterday, you need to have a reasonable understanding of the risks. The risks are now very serious around the reactors because of what happened with the fire yesterday. There are health concerns. In fact, CNET has a very good fact on the health concerns for people in Japan. But there's a lot of worry from people saying, well, what if those steam clouds came across the Pacific to the United States? And could the radiation carry through the atmosphere to us? And I guess there's been a run on people buying iodine because taking iodine, non-radioactive iodine, is one way to prevent your thyroid from absorbing radioactive iodine.
It's like potassium iodine.
Yeah, potassium iodide. We don't need to be concerned yet here in the United States. Io9.com, not iodine, but Io9, has a very good article about how radiation travels and what damage it can do. And again, this is not to say there aren't concerns and there aren't reasons to pay attention and be ready in case something goes bad. But
I think when you hear nuclear and radiation, people go, "Oh my gosh!" It's a huge, serious problem. Everyone needs to panic. It is a serious problem, and we are being informed as such. But it's also important to remember that, radiation is something that no one can get away from if you're just going to go about your day living your life.
The high level of, this is from the Io9 story, the high level of radiation being given off by the Fukushima plant was a one-time emission, like we talked about. It was, that 400 millisieverts for a short period of time, and is unlikely to greatly affect residents of Tokyo, let alone residents of other countries. Obviously, you want to avoid radiation as much as possible because it has cumulative effects over your life. But at this point, you need to not start running for the hills and just pay attention. There may be it's been a one-time emission at this point. If there's risk of a meltdown or containment breaches, there could be more emissions in the future, and so it's something to keep an eye on for sure.
There's a really interesting side note to this real quick. We had a worker at a Canadian plant on our morning show the other day, and he talked about less about the technical issues and more about what the political ramifications were and what sort of public opinion might do to their industry, their ability to expand in Canada, and then even what it meant here. And I did a little research. Turns out there's been a plant idea, I guess, or an idea for a plant in the Kanab Desert here in Utah that was, getting all kinds of excitement. People are really excited about it. Now everybody's saying, well, at least in Japan, they could pump seawater in there and sort of contain things. What do you do in the middle of a desert if you have this sort of problem? There's no way you could cool it. And it would mean catastrophe for the nation, not just our state. So there is a lot of sort of see what we told you about reactors, see what we've been saying about this kind of energy for all these decades. And it feels like it's being turned a little bit into a political issue, which is too bad because I subscribe to Tom's method, which is a rational approach to educating ourselves and learning what all this really means and how does radiation work. And it's too bad to see this soon, see it turn into such a political issue around here.
But in any case, check out Io9, check out CNET. We'll have links to these in our wiki at twit.tv/TNT, and educate yourself on what the real risks are. Not to say there aren't risks. You should know what they are, but you should know what the real risks are and go from there. All right, let's take a quick break and thank our other sponsor for today's show, Slingbox. With Slingbox, you can watch your home TV on your iPad. I've been doing so much traveling lately. Slingbox is so handy for traveling because you've got shows that you want to catch up on, and you've got time when you travel where you're like, I'm not doing anything right now. I got an internet connection. I could catch up on that episode of Fringe. You launch the Slingbox on your iPad, and you can watch it in HD from your home DVR.
I was stuck at Long Beach Airport a lot longer than I wanted to be because one of my flights was delayed coming back from Austin. That would have been the perfect time.
I could have
easily gotten in an hour-long show with time to spare.
You're not limited to certain channels. You don't have to pay anything extra. It's all your home TV. Basically, you hook up a Slingbox to the internet, you hook it up to your home TV, and then you put the app on whatever device, whether it's a laptop, a BlackBerry, an iPad, that you want to watch it on, and you can watch everything that you would get at home on your device, like your iPad. It's that easy. Slingbox is available at Best Buy and Amazon, and you can learn more at slingbox.com. We thank them for their support. On to the News Fuse. The Tokyo hackerspace is calling for help, folks. They're planning to build 150 solar-powered LED lanterns and are calling on hackerspace members from around the world to lend a hand soon. Head on over to TokyoHackerspace.org to find out more if you're a maker willing to help.
Well, thank Firesheet, because another website is increasing security. Twitter announced it's added the option for users to force HTTPS connections by default when accessing twitter.com. So if you want to turn on that for yourself, go to settings, check the box next to always use HTTPS, which is at the bottom of the page.
On February 15th, several industries submitted an annual report to the U.S. government alleging that piracy is now in many countries a product of organized crime and that pirated DVDs are worth more than cocaine. Try to snort a DVD, I dare you. A major new report funded by Canada and by the and by the Ford Foundation and buttressed by field work around the globe suggests that neither assertion is true. Instead, commercial piracy is under pressure from the same force pressing on legal distribution, free internet file sharing.
Google has retooled its free iPhone app with a new name, a streamlined look and feel, and an easier way to narrow your search results, helping that app work more like its website. The app was once known as Google Mobile. Now they've changed the name to Google Search, and it features a new swipeable sidebar for narrowing down your search to the things that you want to find. The new interface also gives quick access to other Google apps and services like Gmail.
Hot on the heels of taking you to the movies, Facebook now wants to take you out to the ball game. Facebook unveiled an experimental live stream service that's actually going to broadcast several spring training games. Tom, I know you're into that. For the next 2 weeks, at least until opening day, there appear to be no plans to actually extend the service into the regular season, although maybe they'll change their minds if they get a lot of interest.
Who knows?
LCD flat screens might be in for a price hike. The supply of upstream materials for flat panel production is sufficient for a few months, but may become uncertain after that as the Japanese government has started implementing power brownout controls. According to the Wang Jue Xiao, am I saying that right? I hope, president of a name I won't read, the whole flat panel supply chain on the rehabilitation process. Oh, I see. Thank you. Shime Intellects. The whole flat panel supply chain counts on the rehabilitation process of panels in Japan, and I have a feeling this may have a little bit to do with shortages at Foxconn of panels and stuff like that. So we'll
Foxconn's in China, though, so these are different issues too.
No, I'm basically saying maybe they're suffering from that too, and I'm guessing they're all affected by what's happening in Japan. I don't think any of Asia is sitting around going, yeah, we got this figured out. I think they gotta wait till things clean up.
Piotr Mitrichev, a Russian currently ranked #1 in the world by Topcoder, has won the inaugural Facebook Hacker Cup.
Oh, Petr.
The finalists were asked to solve 3 algorithmic problem sets, and the only coder to successfully solve all 3 was Mitrichev. Interesting thing about him, he works for Google in their Moscow R&D center. You know what I would do, Peter?
Point Facebook.
I would just bid them both up. Be like, come on, Facebook, hire me. Oh, how much are you offering? Okay, Google, you want to keep me? You got to top that.
Good times. The bloom is barely off the Motorola Droid 2 Rose, and we're already seeing lots of leaks around the Droid 3. The latest is a picture from Howard Forums, and it shows a keyboard that looks very similar to the Droid 2, except has 5 rows and sports a half-height keys for the numeric row.
A lot of people like the 5-row keyboard. I don't get that excited about it myself.
I don't know. I don't. Well, I'm all touchscreen now, so a lot of the stuff is just
touchy, feely.
It's
screen.
not that I just don't feel like I have I can have a good enough opinion because I'm not using one every day.
Well, do you have an opinion on referees suing people for posting things on Twitter? NBA referee Bill Spooner has sued Associated Press writer John Krasinski for defamation after the Minnesota Timberwolves beat writer that's John Krasinski, he's the beat writer, tweeted during a January 24th game that Spooner was calling fouls to make up for bad calls.
You know,
is that defamation? That's like you're calling him a referee.
This is like being a ref has got to be one of those jobs where you just are going to have to get used to people saying things like this because they're screaming it if they're sitting in the stands anyway. He's just mad because usually, and I'm guilty of this too, you know, if I'm watching a game and I am very invested in the game and something goes the way that I didn't want it to go, it's very easy to blame the ref. Sometimes they make bad calls, and sometimes you're just like, screw you, ref, you suck. But he said, ref Bill Spooner. And usually people don't know the names of referees. So he got all bent out of shape about it because he was calling him out directly.
Here's what he said. Here's what Krasinski actually wrote. Ref Bill Spooner told Rambus, who's the coach, he'd get it back after a bad call. Then he made an even worse call on the Rockets. That's NBA officiating, folks. So he's accusing Spooner of telling the coach, don't worry, I'll make it even, right? Which may be a common practice. And I think you're right. I think exactly what he got mad at was, it's still there. The kill the umpire did not just fade off into the distance.
No. And again, it's the referee named Bill Spooner. This is an outrage. How do you know it was me? It was that guy.
It wasn't me.
The other ref.
The other zebra.
It's interesting because sometimes defamation Twitter suits are won by the person seeking damages. Courtney Love had to pay somebody $400,000 recently for saying she was, like a crack whore. I mean, she said something bad about somebody else, and that other person got some money, took her to court and won.
This is why I don't say bad things about you anymore on Twitter.
Well, I wish you would, because I could use the money.
I'm not made of money. I don't have any more.
Yeah, they'd be interested. I don't know if Bill Spooner's going to get his money, but I mean, it's proven that these sorts of things, you can be awarded damages if you make a big enough stink about it over Twitter. So maybe we should all think about what we're tweeting.
Yes.
In the heat of the NBA moment.
Think about what you're tweeting. On to the calendar.
All right. Samsung is launching the 3D VOD service in Korea and has told the U.S. and Europe to get ready. Presumably because we'll get it also, but just not right now. Yeah, just get ready.
Get ready.
To rumble. Also, some Samsung news. The Samsung Series 9 laptop is going to hit tomorrow for $1,650 or so. I think that's the 13-inch version. An 11-inch version is coming in April as well. So if that's the kind of series that you're into, get ready. Verizon offers the unlimited LTE data plan for the HTC Thunderbolt at launch, which is tomorrow. That's Thursday. The Thunderbolt pre-sales have broken Wirefly online order records. So a lot of people are wanting that. Mozilla will ship Firefox 4 on March 22nd, which is next week.
Well, I might have to switch back to Firefox. I'm very excited about Firefox 4.
Release candidate came out yesterday, by the way.
Cool.
It's pretty stable.
I'm excited to try it. I mean, I was such a Firefox diehard for so many years, and it felt really weird to switch over to Chrome, and I've since kind of forgotten about Firefox. But I will gladly switch back. Best browser wins. Motorola is making the Wi-Fi only Zoom officially $599 for release on March 27th.
You gonna buy one, Scott?
No, I'm not. But it's that is a way better price than I thought it was going to be. I thought I saw something in the $700 range, $699 or so.
Yeah,
so.
I said the same thing earlier. I mean, that makes more sense. On a side note, I played a little bit with the Playbook at the gadget party.
And?
I liked it.
That's good. I'm telling you.
I did. Well, they were also doing the show-offy thing where it's like during multitasking, you could be, running a, HD, have the camera on, the HD video, and at the same time, you're playing a racing game. And it was, it was handling the graphics really well.
Like
I was really impressed by that. Yeah, like a computer. It was like a computer.
Do you think they held off on that new price point until they, saw the iPad 2 out with its Wi-Fi model and kind of said, well, we don't want to necessarily compete right at $499 or whatever, but we kind of want to be in a better ballpark here, and we need to wait and see what Apple does, even though we kind of knew the price anyway? I mean, why do you suppose they waited?
No, I think they just took a while to get the Wi-Fi out because they wanted the carriers to get as much money as possible.
The Samsung Galaxy Player 4 and 5 will arrive this spring, at least in the U.S. And finally, the Daily, that app that I forgot about, but a lot of people read, very daily, is set for Europe availability sometime in the summer.
On to the voice.
Every time I say anything bad about the Daily, I get a bunch of emails being like, I love the Daily.
From Rupert Murdoch.
and his many employees.
On to the voicemail. 260-TNT show is our phone number, and we have a lovely email about the JavaScript story we mentioned in the news fuse about things running slower if you launched a bookmark from the home screen. This guy's from Scotland, so listen close.
Hey, Tom and friends. This is Dee from Glasgow, Scotland. Just a wee note about the iPhone JavaScript bits and bobs. It's like Apple including a new library in the phone. Sure, they're not going to see which library every app sees, otherwise it might break random other apps. They don't want to do that on a minor OS upgrade. So the other thing is app icons and web home pages that you save on your launcher and you launch into the web browser. They do go into your web from Safari, and they will be using the new Nitro engine, so they will be faster. It's just apps that use JavaScript inside the app itself, like Mob Wars and other ones like that. Okay, good luck and have a great show. Love it lots. Bye.
First of all, love that you called it a wee note. I don't know if you were just playing up the Scottish thing about that, but it sounded pretty natural to me. Also, yeah, no, that's a really good point that the Nitro engine, and the libraries and the operating system are different, so it might be a bigger revision to add those to the operating system. Well said, well spoken. Although what you said about apps having to use Safari if they're just bookmarks is not always true. In fact, Open App Market specializes in actually delivering apps that are self-contained links that you put on the home screen, and they launch as full-screen apps, but they don't launch Safari. There's a lot of great apps in there. There's like little Pac-Man games. There's a music app that lets you link to any piece of music anywhere on the web, and these are all apps that don't need approval from Apple. So if you're interested in that, check out Open App Market. And the way they work is they just save as bookmarks on the home screen. And those are the ones most affected by this situation, whether it's intentional or not.
On to the emails. This one's from Suzanne, who says, I love my Zune. If the Windows 7 phones were just like the Zune, I'd have one. It's beautiful. It's simple. I can listen to you, TNT, while sending you an email without turning on my desktop or paying for a data plan. Granted, I'm a freak. I don't have a data plan for my Android. $10 a month on Virgin and Wi-Fi is usually enough for me. I just wish more people could build Zune apps. They all work well, but there aren't enough of them.
Suzanne, you should change your name to Suzune.
That would be a little bit more freakish.
I love her enthusiasm for the Zune. That's pretty awesome.
You don't get that every day.
Yeah, no, it's sadly rare.
I'm glad that she is able to explain exactly why she loves it.
Yeah, exactly. New apps will be sadly rare as well, by the way.
Zune back
very true.
I'm afraid so. Yep. All right, on to Al, the Iraqi doctor in Damascus, who says, regarding the discussion about piracy in countries like Russia and Mexico, I'd like to say that the situation is the same in the Middle East. I've been living in Syria for a few years now, and the primary means for piracy here are physical discs. You can get any movie on DVD for as low as 25 cents. Video games are between $1 and $3 US. That's right, single digits. So considering the average income of a high school or college kid being between $100 and $200 US, is it really a choice? You can see that reflected in the sales of things like the PS3, where it skyrocketed after a jailbreak was available. He says, P.S. Tom, after your constant encouragement, I finally started watching The Wire, and I'm glad I did, and wishes a speedy recovery to Sarah from your ear infection.
Thanks,
for a great
Al.
show.
I'm doing my best.
And he's
you
a
could send
doctor.
me some ears. I would really appreciate that.
Yeah, that would be
because
good.
these ones suck. I don't want them anymore.
Moving on to an email we got from Chris in Portland, Oregon. Chris says, geez, it already been 100 episodes since I wrote in last.
That's right. It's our 200th episode.
Happy 200th episode, everybody.
Deja vu.
Wow.
Been here before, haven't you, Jason?
I've been here a bunch.
Where has the time flown says. He says, I was listening to TNT 199 and HP's decision to do its own app store. Previously, I scoffed at app stores since I didn't really see the point of them. That was, of course, until I discovered the Google Web Store. It has seduced me and chased me away from all my skepticism over app stores. The highlight for me is, once I purchase an app, I can use it on any computer running Chrome, no matter where in the world I am. So call me a convert, because when I hear HP is creating an app store, I think of how this could benefit HP users. Congrats on episode 200. Looking forward to the next 200, although I will write again before that, I am sure. Best of luck. Thanks, Chris. It's a good point he makes about that app store. And I'm telling you, if you have a bunch of followers, if you love HP stuff, then why the heck would you not be interested in getting, easy access to apps and so on? Mac users are having that kind of thing now. The Google App Store is that way. The App Store before it is like that. I mean, why not? Let's say more the merrier.
Yeah,
I guess it just depends on if there's enough of a community of people who want to build these apps that are cool in order to put them in the store. So it's not just these, 10 different app stores with like 15 cool apps each, and it all just seems fragmented.
I want to see somebody come up with an open source app store where it's just it has all the benefits that he's talking about, but I don't have to like shell over money for stuff that should be free, or I can donate if I want to, and then I am able to take advantage of all this great open source software that's meant to be free. It's not because I don't want to pay for software. It's that there's really good stuff that's free, and then it doesn't go into app stores because there's all of these GPL violations a lot of times in app stores. So
and also
I want somebody
independent
to
platform. It'd be great if you're a Linux user. I want to go to that same resource and get my stuff. I have a Mac. I want to go there to get my stuff. Basically, what you're talking about is the internet, but somebody to put it in an app store kind of construct so that we get the benefits of that. I think that's a great idea. Tom should make it.
All right, yeah, in my spare time. All right, thanks Scott Johnson for being on the show. Let folks know. I mean, you mentioned the morning stream earlier. That's going well, right?
It's going really well. We got mentioned in USA Today, which was awesome. I was really thrilled about that. It's a morning show Monday through Thursday, every morning, 7 a.m. Pacific. You can learn more at frogpants.com/TMS. And real quick, just to let people know who may not heard already, chances are already have if you're coming, but Nerdtacular 2011, the annual Frog Pants event I throw here in Salt Lake City, is happening on June 17th, and tickets went up for sale yesterday. And they can learn more at nerdtacular.com. Oh, I got you one. Don't you worry.
You're so VIP.
You're covered. You're totally VIP.
Oh, I got to start making demands.
Do like +10 bottle service.
I want every other green M&M taken out of my M&Ms.
He always demands this mini bar. It gets real bad with Tom.
I want my own venue separate from the Great Unwashed.
Diet Stewart's root beer. Diet.
What is this crap?
Anyway, yeah, I'll be going. It's fun. June 17th, Nerdtacular, Salt Lake City. Looking forward to it, Scott.
It's going to be a blast. Thank you for having me on, guys. It's always a blast.
You can find us on the web at twit.tv/TNT. You can call and leave us a message, 260-TNT show, or if you have some ears that you've printed out for Sarah, you can let us know how we can get them by emailing us, TNT@twit.tv. We'll see you tomorrow.